Good morning. I am Samson Balogun. Thank God it is Friday, and this is Daybreak Live Extra on Dominion Television, Ibadan. We begin with a statement that is already stirring political interpretations as President Bola Tinubu says Buhari was a partner. I took over from myself. So what does that suggest about continuity in governance? Is it a defense of policy direction, a political message, or both? And how should Nigerians rate the idea of continuity in the face of current realities? That is our Daybreak gist this morning. We'll also bring you the weather report, and shortly after Daybreak News, with the major developments shaping the day.
Absolutely. Emmanuel Akwo Idowu. We then turn to the newspaper headlines and analysis, and this morning's front pages reflect a mix of political positioning, governance debate, and public reaction. We'll take a closer look at the document and the dominant narratives and the questions they actually raise.
And Amuluwaemi Adelakun, a big story examines a long-standing feature of Nigeria's political structure, between fairness and federal character, the real impact of zoning in Nigeria. Is zoning still a necessary tool for balance and inclusion, or has it become a constraint on merit and democratic choice? And in practice, we truly benefit from the system. Joining us for that conversation is Honorable Molaja Olaoye.
And before we close the show, this morning we'll end it with Trend Watch, and we'll highlight the stories and conversations gaining traction across the country.
It's a morning of reflection and perspective today.
Definitely. Let's begin.
And then we shall begin. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Beautiful morning to you. This extra day.
Well, Friday is always different, actually. And that's why we have a different story today. As the president was out, it was all out yesterday. And they said a lot of things. But one particular, there's a particular part of that particular conversation they had with the president that caught my attention. But then let's listen to the president himself, as he was saying some things about continuity in governance. And when we are back, we'll highlight this more on the show.
The truth is, I took over for myself. The late Buhari is me. He was a partner. And if I took over from him, is that not from myself? So, if something is wrong, fine. Live with it, correct it, move on. The life voyage is not going to be easy. And so many of you that are traveling with me, I can only stand before you and say you will not regret it. That is why we ask you to renew their hope. If they don't want to see the hope and the roads that we bridge and the children we raise and the economy we are growing, we lend them Jiggy Bola. We give them eyeglasses. I can assure you, this is whatever you say I do. But one thing that you need from me is a promise that I won't run away from your family. With you, the deal is done.
All right, that was the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He made some bold statements and was referring to the fact that, look, I was part of that administration, even though not in a position where I got an appointment from anybody. But then, of course, Buhari is me. I am Buhari, and I took over from Buhari. So it means that we are continuing the process. Even though, if some people are not seeing what we have been doing so far, then it means that we have to lend them classes. Now, you also made some assertions, but what caught my attention is the fact that something was quite clear while he was speaking. He was confident of his ideas about how to run the country. So he's not that person to say, look, I I'm clueless at this point. He knows where he's going. It might not be the best idea people would be looking out for, but then it was confident. And also he effectively put to rest the idea of continuity in governance, saying we don't want to blame the last administration. So the last administration was APC. If we are going to blame anybody, it has to be the PDP administration that came before us. But as it stands, whatever mistake we made in the past, we are trying to correct now. I mean, that says a lot about what is going on in the mind of the president at this time. It doesn't seem like someone that is really afraid of anybody. And he said a lot of things about, there was a part he said, there is no one among this calabash that has no history. He mentioned, stylishly mentioned the privatization of companies in Nigeria, Jakarta still rolling and some other people. And everybody knows who was in charge of privatization in Nigeria at that time, and that was Atiku Abubakar. And stylishly he mentioned David Mark and so many other people. He says a lot about the idea, what is running through the mind of the president at this time.
Right. So when the president said that, he didn't stutter, honestly, because I think he said something similar. I mean, maybe in the last few years. And then I remember that there was a time the president also said that Buhari came to me when he lost election 3 times, and then I told him that we will work it out. And then obviously he did, because Buhari contested 3 times.
He was crying on TV.
He cried to me. Calm down, I'll make it work. And so when he says that I am Tinubu, or like I'm Buhari is me, I continued whatever it is that he started. I think it's very correct to say that, because he was the master strategist, you know, of bringing together those political parties, ACN, CPC, and they formed a coalition. PDP thought it was a joke. They had no idea that, you know,
where they were coming from,
that these people are united. And at that time, I think PDP was going through issues. So it was something they didn't see coming at all. So he was the master strategist. He was very popular in the south, in the southwest. Yes, we know that Buhari is a big figure in the north, so he had that. And then for some reasons, they found a way to sell, oh, Buhari is sympathetic towards the Talakawas, which means the poor. They sold that to the people. And then they went ahead to go and bring a vice president who is a Christian. And they chose him from the Redeemed Christian Church of God. You know the population, the huge number. So it was calculated. And then that, you know, that paid off for these people. And then I also want to say something. When he said that he's just trying to continue from where he stopped, and then I think Tinubu is even more bold compared to Buhari. Yes, he's trying to continue from where he stopped. Do you remember that a lot of times some persons felt, you know, Buhari should remove the subsidy, but then he did not. But the moment Tinubu came to power, he removed subsidy the first day. But then we can still see similarities in their administration. Speak about some of the challenges that we are facing now. We saw it in the last administration. Talk about insecurity. Talk about heavy borrowing. So we can still see similarities. So when he said, oh, I decided I'm just trying to continue from where he stopped, honestly, I don't think, you know, he's trying to maybe just, you know, sugarcoat anything. He's been factual, and of course, he's been real. And then away from that, I also want to mention one point to see that at the end of the day, we really cannot blame these people, you know, when they say things like this. Just like you mentioned, it threw some jab to some persons to say none of them, you know, is without history. And then why is it that they are trying to make Nigerians feel like they can do better when they come to power? At the end of the day, politics is about continuation, and then we have seen it happen several times. So the president, he said that, and then it's something we can still, you know, hold on to, because at the end of the day, let's just assume maybe another APC government decide to maybe win the election. That same person will still come and tell us that, no, Tinubu is my father, or maybe Tinubu is my person, and then I'm just trying to continue from where it stopped. So these are the issues. At the end of the day, once they are in the same political party, they will not look for a way to, I don't know what word to use now. They will always support each other in that way. I'm not sure whether Tinubu wants to claim the challenges that Nigerians faced during Buhari's era, but then he's trying to say, I'm trying to continue from where he stopped. So one thing that Nigerians are asking online is to say that, but President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, are you supporting or are you claiming the successes and the challenges that we face under the Buhari administration? If you say that you are trying to continue.
I don't think he's shying away from that. The way he spoke.
Okay,
exactly.
So I think that statement even makes it clear to say, this is what I take responsibility for. So he's taking responsibility not just for the things he's doing, but the things they have done all together. Because usually, like they say, governance or government is continuum. So you have to understand that whatever, he's trying to say that whatever was done in the past administration is still something I'm in the know of. And this really speaks to a lot of things. For example, it speaks to continuity, like you mentioned. It also speaks to the fact that we have a vision and we have an experience on board, right? So if you say I was in the know as to how the last administration ran it, that means like it's an insider's knowledge kind of understanding I have about this. I'm so experienced in this, and so I know where we are going and we'll get there. But we can also take it from different strategic angles, right? And I think one of the things that I'm going to clap for the president about is, besides the experience, the insider knowledge, and the continuity of governance, also taking responsibility for the failed system or failed structure or whatever they had in the APC. This speaks so loud, especially to parties like the PDP, to say that this is a word of cohesion for the party. It's not shying away from the wrongs of his administration and from the wrongs of the past administration that is his party. And I think this is where PDP might be lacking, right? PDP and other parties. Now, it's okay for Tinubu to just dissociate himself because, of course, many persons have, adjudged the last administration to be a failed one in a lot of ways. Some have said, well, there's a lot of things.
It would be quite easy for him to just
so
stay
he could just have, maybe stayed on the fence or pull himself out of that conversation. But he's not doing that. He's trying to say, this is our party. So this signals for me the cohesion in the party. Any other party member that would have taken the side of Buhari would not back down.
Especially the CPC bloc.
Exactly. So the person, those people would want to say, oh, we support this man. Because he's not blaming, he's not playing the blame game. He's not blaming Buhari for everything that's happened. He's taking responsibility. So we are going to, because that's one of the ways, subtle ways to really dissociate yourself from a group of people. That's where faction begins. You understand what I'm trying to say? That we can start a faction from saying that the last administration, Tinubu, so every other person
that worked, polarize the political party.
Exactly. Every other person that worked with Tinubu and with Buhari would now say, I don't like this man. Just because he's trying to say we failed, everybody failed, and he's not concerned about that failure. But he's saying I was in the know, and I'm very, very important. I was interested.
Part of that
move, and so it makes a lot of sense for the party. So I think Tinubu, like some have said, is a godfather that knows his onions. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's saying. So others will also say that these are things that opposition would want to use against him. And we understand why, because they would say, of course, we can see the indices, the metrics to judge this administration and the past administration. For one, insecurity. Another, economy. But the economy, some will argue, is getting better. But on the macro level, a lot of persons are complaining because it does not trickle down, like you always say, to the micro level. But at the macro level, we can see a lot of developments. Even security-wise, we can see a lot of international bilateral relations that he's trying to engage and all of that. Some would say it was not the one that came out to call them, they were the ones that came. Whatever the case is, at that macro level, we can see a lot of movement, a lot of operations at that level to ensure that we get to where we want to go. But I think I just love what the president said. But I know opposition parties and people would want to say something. They would want to say this sounds like an arrogant way of addressing people, right? Because it was addressing some of the leaders, and it was saying that, that was why we told you to give them renewed hope. It was saying like, give them in that sense. I don't want us to maybe pinpoint one for one by one, every word that the president spoke, but you could see the confidence. But some would take the confidence for arrogance, and that's what I'm trying to say, that he was just too confident to say, we are trying to do this for them, you're trying to, and he mentioned something that maybe a lot of people will still question as we go by, and that's the fact that he was saying that, look at the children we are raising. And so that brings a lot of questions to mind to say, what exactly do you mean when you say you're raising children? Really, where are the children?
You might just be referring to Nail Fund.
Exactly. Maybe that's because that's more like, that's closest to that statement, because I was trying to imagine in my head what are you trying to say. But anyway, he's made his claims, right? And I think going into 2027 election, Tinubu knows this could be a way it could be a loophole for opposition parties to say, this administration and the last administration have not done anything. If you have to check how much borrowing, like Yemi mentioned now, we made in 2015 at the time of Buhari, and now you will have seen that it's skyrocketed for about over 50%, right? What we have as debts then is just joking to what we have compared to now. And we can also say that, maybe that at the macro level is also a big deal for us to consider, that we are borrowing too much, we have a lot of deficit that we have not even covered, and a lot of things. So some are asking the question, right, is this a continuity of a failed system or a correction of the old system, right? So I think Tinubu is trying to say, we want to correct the wrongs. And he mentioned that this is renewed hope, that even if they did not believe in the hope that had been given in the past, this is a way to renew the hope. But again, like I would say, and like many Nigerians would say, all we require for the president to do now is to really let it translate to meaningful contributions to society. Let us see the dividends of this in real time. Let Nigeria be able to hold it, let it be tangible enough for them to hold. But come 2027 election, I think this administration is quite doing a lot of things that would help them.
Well, if you mentioned the confidence you saw in the president while he was speaking, I think at a point like this, when the APC, even the APC, the almighty APC in Nigeria right now, they also have their issues. And even Yudwada, who happens to be the chairman of the party, came out to say, look, yes, despite all the challenges, we are still standing strong and we are in a very good place ahead of the 2027 general elections. That tells you that no party is devoid of problems. Everyone has their things they are facing. The ADC is still battling theirs. The PDP, of course, it's been there for a long time. The Labour Party, they are not different. And then you have the APC that happens to be the ruling party at the national level. And they have also had their fair share of issues. I was speaking to someone, and someone said, look, it's not everyone in the APC that is happy to be there. But there is a way the president speaks to you and you are like, yes, I think there is hope. I think we have to stay. I think we should believe in, whatever it is brought to the table. And that still shows in what he's been telling them that, look, I am confident about my ideas. I mean, there's nothing more important that you can do when you talk and when you are handling situations than the confidence people see in your eyes that you know what you are doing. I mean, again, I want to refer to sometimes ago when he spoke about, he said, I know the road, follow me. I mean, that's confidence. You can't buy that anywhere.
It's audacious.
That is the audacity that lets people believe in what you bring to the table. But the moment you are fidgeting, I mean, people know that I don't think we can trust this person because he doesn't even believe in himself. But when you believe in yourself, your followers will understand the fact that, look, even if we are going into the bush, the confidence in you says we should stay. And that also, points to some areas. And when they said, look, you cannot just come today and say you are the ones to now say this is the best way to run the country, especially for people in the. And they also mentioned something that is very, very important for anyone that has been monitoring the process. He said, look, before I got the ticket of my political party, it was so hard. Before I won the election, it was very hard. Now that I am the president, I mean, it shows that he's so confident of winning the next election. He set up the machinery to help him win the election. He's made people that are really willing to sacrifice to make sure he returns back to office. And that tells you about bridge building. This man started when he started as a senator, even though he had his a fair share of political participation even before then. But he was a senator under the SDP. After that, he became governor of Lagos State. And after becoming governor of Lagos State, he relaxed. He didn't fight for any political office. If it was someone else, he would want to return back to the Senate, just like some governors are doing now. Godswill Akpabio is there. Adams Oshiomhole is there. All of them, I think they think the Senate is their retirement plan. But that way, you will not be able to focus on the micro politics in your domain because you are not home. So this man stayed put, built Lagos, and of course he was able to capture the whole of Lagos. Since he left office, it has always been someone he prefers that becomes governor in Lagos State. By building a structure that helps him, he has the GAC Governors Advisory Council, and they are majorly the elder statesmen in their communities. And then when they say this is who we want, nobody changes it. And that also goes to the fact that he was able to help other governors in their different states. Yeah. Oh, you want to be governor? Oh, you can take this. Oh, you can work with this person, work with this person. Some of them were even commissioners under his administration. Ralph Aregbesola, for example, was commissioner for works in Lagos State before he went back to his state in Osun and became governor for 8 good years. In fact, when they did not want to give him his mandate, he fought for it and made sure he got his mandate. I mean, the Olubad of Ibadan land cannot forget what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did for him in a jiffy. Because when he lost his mandate to some people in the state, he helped him get it back. In fact, it was in Lagos. He was still in Lagos when they announced that he has his mandate back before he returned. And so many other people. James Faleke, for example, is a member of House of Representatives representing Ikeja in Lagos. At a point, he went to contest in Kogi. And he was vice governorship aspirant beside Audu I want to remember his name, Muhammad Audu, who actually passed away, immediately was announced to be the next governor of Kogi State. But because of some politics that was played, he had to return back to Lagos. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that this man bridged, he built bridges, not just in the southwest, in the south-south, in the southeast, in the northeast, northwest, north-central, and had people in those places. And then when it was his time to now reap the benefits of helping other people, it was so easy. Because he didn't need to say too much to them before they all came to say, look, it is your turn too. And the moment he said, it is my turn, the Emilokon slogan is still out there for everyone to say. Because he knew that it was his turn. He built those bridges. He was doing it not because he was just doing it for fun. He knew what he wanted. And he was waiting for the time. There was a time he mentioned that President Muhammadu Buhari, while he was to be selected as the candidate of the APC, he said, look, Bola, I want you to work with me, be my vice presidential candidate. I said, look, it is not my turn. Let's use someone else. And that was the case of Professor Yemi Osinbajo that she mentioned earlier. And that, for me, is someone that was calculating. And you tell me that he has not calculated 2027. I mean, that has to be the biggest.
Yeah, I want to speak to the issue of the Emilokon slogan because at that time it was really popular. And then just like you mentioned, I think he was prepared to become president. More than any president I've seen, honestly. Yeah, maybe that preparation is not producing so much results according to some Nigerians, but I think he was really prepared for that position.
Deliberate.
And then it's obvious, he was intentional. According to him, most persons call Tinubu the kingmaker. So at that point, just like I mentioned, he was intentional about making sure that Buhari will get the ticket and, of course, win the election. I remember that the elderly ones, the fathers and mothers who witnessed the Buhari regime, military regime, they were not so comfortable about voting for him. But I don't know how Tinubu and the party
was able to convince
He was able to convince, especially in the southwest. He was able to convince them. And then I mentioned they brought out that policy of, he's sympathetic towards the poor and things like that. And then he won. So he's a kingmaker. And then at that point, he was intentional about becoming the king himself. So that's why it's going to take a lot for any opposition party to say they want to maybe take him out or things like that. And then from what I'm seeing, looking at the opposition now, especially their strength and the crisis that they are going through at this point, I don't think they are ready yet. Because, I mean, if you look at, that's why I like to compare the coalition of the APC in 2014, 2015 to what we have now, the ADC that we have now. These people were united. And then I say it all the time, that APC also had that figure, that leader figure, that ADC is lacking. Those persons there who joined, they didn't even mind. Even the Northerners that came from the CPC, they didn't care about the fact that maybe somebody from the Southwest is more vocal. They were ready to work together for the same goal. I don't know how he does it, but President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has a way of placating people. They say, you want this? Don't worry, you can wait. You get this. But then not now. And then looking at the ADC now, ego might kill this party. Yesterday we mentioned that Atiku said something, and I said this might cause more issues for the big wigs, or let me say the big shot in the 80s. He said, I'm more popular than El-Rufai. I'm more popular than... He mentioned quite a number of names.
Even Kwankwaso said the same thing. He said,
yeah.
I performed more than Peter Obi while I was governor. That is another statement that can further disintegrate the party.
Yeah.
And of course,
You see,
it's going to cause some level of resentment because that person is wondering, okay, if you are popular than me, go and do it now. Use your popularity. At the end of the day, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was very intentional about the little help he can get from, even if what you did before, you were maybe a local government chairman, we can bring you in. You can be useful. But these people, they are just interested, and then it's really sad. And then just like he mentioned, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu also said, none of them is without history. And if you look at it majorly, the vice president, Atiku Abubakar under OBG, he served before. He did quite a number of things. And Nigerians are saying, with what he did, can we trust him with presidency? Look at Rauf Aregbesola that you mentioned. Look at Rotimi Amechi. Look at Peter Obi. At the end of the day, how are they going to prove to Nigerians that they can be better if they get to that position, really?
I will always say that there's no single person that is entirely bad. And there's no single person that is entirely good in a sense. Nobody's 360 perfect, 360 wrong. We have dimensions and shades of people. People come in different lights, in different perspectives and dimensions at different points in time. And I just wanted to say also to this issue that, you see, while a lot of persons would not agree with us to say Tinubu is a master strategist, the kingmaker, and is doing very well, because some are already holding sentiment that, very alien to his administration. They do not like him for some reason. Some will also go for, I don't want to mention the discolorations we can have along the sentiments part. But, the question is now, maybe to even think of Tinubu, if there are if there's anything that I think this administration or Tinubu is particularly doing, is that it's playing that godfatherism game very well. And while a lot of persons don't agree with the concept of godfatherism, it's also true that sometimes, some way, you need godfatherism in the sense of experience, in the sense of management. So there's something I love. Maybe because I'm a communication person, right? I love it when presidents or leaders can communicate effectively. Great leaders of this world, if you talk about the great presidents in the United States, and a good number of them were known for their speeches. In fact, some of their speeches as old as about 70, 80 years are still being recorded. They still play them sometimes because these are things that they built the structure of the country on. These people had a way of communicating to the people, and I think I would give it to the president for this. I remember many times whenever he's called to speak to the press or speak to people, he would sometimes leave whatever he's saying from the books. He would take his eyes off the book and talk to people. He would speak recently at the NRS Commission, that's Nigerian Revenue Service Commissioning headquarters in Abuja. I remember the president was speaking to every one of his ministers. He was talking to Tunji, and he was saying, Tunji, you have done well. You know, and that's talking about not
Means
Tunji.
he was monitoring.
He
knows how well
he was talking to Zach. He said, Zach. He wasn't calling them Zach Adedeji. You know, he was just calling them Zach. You are taking us to a path I want. And he was speaking to, he left his books, right? And then he was speaking directly. And I saw this, I said, this is how to do it. I've seen a lot of presidents, I don't want to mention names that will come, and this is what they are doing. We want to say, and that's not enough. Now, when you communicate effectively, don't communicate. When you communicate AI, we can know. When you communicate something that is scripted, we know. But when you communicate heart to heart, we can tell that this is really true. Even if you are not the best of persons, but the fact that you can connect to me from the screen of my television, I can know that this president is speaking to me. And it's, you know, sometimes you can start, the feelings, the emotions, the logic in his communication will speak a lot to the Nigerian people that this is where we are going. Because there's no leader that works well without vision. And how do you express vision? Before vision becomes a reality, it has to be said. It has to be preached. It has to be pitched to people. People must know where we are going as a country. And I think that's what the president is doing. If you really don't like the president, but just look at this angle and look at if this is a way leaders have gone in time past and how they have done well. But, you know, at the end of the day, I would say, giving that to the president, there are a lot of things we might still maybe not shy away from to say this administration is not really getting right. But I am very hopeful, like every Nigerian should be. Even if you don't like this administration, be hopeful that things are going to, because some would say we are tired, but you can't really do anything. Even if you're tired, you still have to be hopeful, right? So I just want to say that one of the things that is going to be a deciding factor for this administration and for Tinubu is that going to 2027 elections, a lot of persons will ask the question again, is Tinubu a continuity or a continuum of failure, or is he going to change the narrative and correct the wrongs?
Yes, I don't know, just very quickly, sorry, I just want to speak to that. Yeah, he said that he's trying to continue whatever it is that Buhari, you know, started. And then I just want to see, maybe, I don't know, this might get to him or not, that maybe he needs to revisit some policies, because policies will either, you know, make life better for people or make it worse. And then if you look at some of his policies objectively right now, it has caused more harm. I don't want to say harm now, maybe more issues for the people, and then the people can feel it. Maybe it's high time, you know, he revisited, you know, those policies and see how they can be much better for the people. Honestly, I'm saying this objectively now, because obviously, he has been able to do certain things in certain areas. And then if there's one thing I see, you know, concerning President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is he has highs for people who can actually, you know, do well in a particular sector. And then we made mention of quite a number of persons. But then we need to look at some of the policies. I mean, it's okay. You can tell the people, we tried to do this, do it this way. It's not working, but we want to change it. We want to refurbish it. Most persons are going to applaud him. Some of these policies, we need to look at them and then see how they can better the lives of the people. Because at the end of the day, we should not breach that social contract. The people will vote you in to become their president. And then in exchange, you're supposed to cater to their needs, their major and core needs. So basically, I think the president should look for a way to revisit some of those policies that are not working effectively.
Well, I think it's quite obvious that, just like Arno said, is that one thing is quite important. It's direction. When you know the direction, you know where you are going. It will be quite easy for others to follow you. And then I've also seen this in this administration, that sometimes when there are policies that they introduce, and then maybe a little backlash from the people, they are quickly withdrawn, revisited. I think recently Oyedele came out to say, look, the Minister of State for Finance, and said, look, with the new tax act, we saw a little bit of issues and we are going to correct them. That speaks to the fact that the system is evolving. Yeah, there was a time we said there's no system in the country. And then now I think, and I want to believe that we now have something that looks like a system that might eventually become a system, or maybe a system that will eventually work. That's what I see. But eventually, we can actually say, look, we have an administration that for the first time speaks directly to the people, not because of what is in the script, or but what is being prepped to speak. Oftentimes, we've seen people say it most times goes off with script. Yeah, of course, when it was being sworn in, fuel subsidy is gone. It was not even part of what it was meant to say. It just looked away from the script and then announced, from now, fuel subsidy is gone. Whether you like it or not, this is something we have to do. And people couldn't really blame him, because every aspirant at that time, every candidate of each political party said, we are going to remove fuel subsidy. Peter Obi mentioned the same thing. Atiku Abubakar mentioned the same thing. And when they came on board and gave a shocker to everybody that fuel subsidy is gone, none of them could say, oh, I mean, so even some of them, they were against him. Yes. Of course. And they were asked, but you said this thing when you were campaigning. So why go against this person that has just done what you said you would do? But then, a lot is too, we cannot say it all. Of course, we will still leave some things unsaid, and that is why we'll help you navigate through the day this morning and check weather reports across the country. And we'll be starting with the ancient metropolitan city of hospitality in Ibadan. What does the weather look like in Ibadan this morning? As it stands, weather in Ibadan is currently at 25 degrees Celsius. And later in the morning, it will rise by 6 degrees Celsius to 31 degrees Celsius. It will be mostly cloudy. Humidity will be at 3%. And in the afternoon, it rises again to 34 degrees Celsius, remaining mostly cloudy, with humidity climbing to 7%. And it will drop to 28 degrees Celsius in the evening, partly cloudy, humidity at 1%. It drops further to 26 degrees Celsius overnight, partly cloudy, humidity at 3% in Ibadan today.
And from Ibadan, we cross to Lagos. Weather this morning feels like 34 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning is expected to be around 31 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy around 4%. And in the afternoon, we have 32 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 3%. And in the evening, it drops to 29 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 0%. And overnight, it drops to 28 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy around 3%. And that's what we have for Lagos this morning.
And from Lagos, we move away from Lagos to see what the weather is saying in other parts of the country, particularly this morning.
Abeokuta.
Yes, Abeokuta, still in Southwest State, of course, feels like 31 degrees Celsius across board. In the morning, 31 degrees Celsius is what it starts with. Mostly cloudy, expected to be at 4% humidity, and also a further rise to about 4 degrees Celsius to 35 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy as well. Then it drops down to 28 degrees Celsius in the evening, to become partly cloudy, and overnight it drops much further by 2 degrees Celsius to 26 degrees Celsius to become partly cloudy in Abeokuta, South Ogun State today.
All right, moving on to the south this morning. We take this one from Uyo in Akwa Ibom State, and that is, of course, the capital of Akwa Ibom. And right now, weather in Uyo is currently at 25 degrees Celsius. And later in the morning, it will rise to 30 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, humidity at 2%. In the afternoon, rises again to 33 degrees Celsius, remaining mostly cloudy. Humidity rises to 8%. And by evening, it will drop to 26 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, humidity at 2%. And there will be a slight drop in the overnight to 25 degrees Celsius, remaining partly cloudy, humidity at 5% in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State today.
And from Uyo, we cross to Enugu South. Weather this morning feels like 26 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning is expected to be around 31 degrees Celsius and mostly cloudy around 2%. In the afternoon, we have 34 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy around 3%. And in the evening, it drops to 28 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy around 8%. And then overnight, it drops to 25 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 3%. And of course, from there, let's cross to Owerri. West Imo this morning.
Yeah, so where we land at 25 degrees Celsius, that's what the weather would be averagely. In the morning, 31 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy across many parts of Owerri West today. In the afternoon, it rises to about 33 degrees Celsius, just 2 degrees Celsius difference, to become cloudy at 24% humidity. And in the evening, it drops back to 26 degrees Celsius, expected to be mostly cloudy. And overnight, just 1 degree Celsius drop to 25 degrees Celsius to become partly cloudy at 3% humidity in Owerri West, Imo State today.
All right, a quick talk to the north this morning. I will take this one from Kaduna South in Kaduna State. Right now in Kaduna, weather currently feels like 28 degrees Celsius. And later in the morning, rises to 31 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy with humidity at 0%. It will rise further to 36 degrees Celsius in the afternoon. And it will be mostly cloudy with humidity at 3%. By evening, it drops to 30 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy. Humidity drops to 0%. And overnight, it drops again to 27 degrees Celsius, remaining mostly cloudy with humidity at 8% right there in Kaduna today.
And from Kaduna, we cross to Sokoto North. Weather this morning feels like 26 degrees Celsius. And later in the morning is expected to be around 35 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 0%. In the afternoon, we have 41 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 0% as well. And in the evening, it drops to 33 degrees Celsius, clear around 0%. And overnight, it drops further to 28 degrees Celsius, clear around 0%. And that's what we have for Sokoto North this morning.
All right, I think that will be all we can take on Weather Report this morning. We say thank you for being a part of the show so far. Do well to link up with us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. You can watch us live on our website at www.dominion.org.ng. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Dominion Broadcast, and on our Facebook page at Dominion Broadcast Television. Let's go on a quick break. And when we return, we take the news. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome to Daybreak News on Dominion Television, Ibadan. My name is Anoluakpo Ido. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said he looks forward to working closely with the incoming administration of Romuald Wadagni of Benin Republic to deepen bilateral relations, enhance regional security, and promote economic prosperity within the ECOWAS sub-region. President Tinubu made this known in a congratulatory letter he signed. Tinubu extended a warm congratulations on behalf of the government and people of Nigeria following Romuald Wadagni's April 12th presidential election victory, noting that the victory reflects the confidence reposed in Wadagni by the Beninese electorate and marked a significant chapter in the country's democratic journey. The presidency has asked former Vice President Atiku Abubakar to abandon any plan to contest the 2027 presidential election, insisting that it remains the South's turn under Nigeria's established power rotation arrangement. Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, made the call in a post on his verified X handle, where he criticized Atiku's renewed presidential ambition as a self-serving move that disregards the North-South zoning principle. Ononuga said Atiku's position, as expressed during a recent television interview, undermines a political convention that has helped stabilize Nigeria's democracy since 1999. He argued that the imbalance cited by Atiku resulted from extraordinary circumstances, describing Atiku's claim as dubious political arithmetic. The Senate, through its Public Accounts Committee, PAC, has given the management of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, until 29th April to appear before it to account for the 210 trillion naira flagged in audit reports from 2017 to 2023. The committee directed the Group Chief Executive Officer, GCEO of NNPCL, Bayo Ojulari, to appear alongside the immediate past GCEO, Melikari, on the scheduled date, especially as the explanations earlier provided by NNPCL to the 19 audit queries were unsatisfactory. Meanwhile, the chairman of the committee, Aliyu Wadada, noted the Nigerians deserved clear, detailed, and convincing responses. Also expected to appear are former Chief Financial Officer, Umar Ajia, Balawunti, and the external auditors of the National Oil Company. The Executive Secretary of the Universal Basic Education Commission, Aisha Gabar, said the federal government is intensifying efforts to improve access to quality basic education through the provision of instructional materials and infrastructure nationwide. She stated this at the flag-off ceremony for distribution of instructional materials to public basic schools in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, detailing that initiative underscores the government's commitment to ensuring inclusive and equitable education for every Nigerian child, regardless of background. She highlighted ongoing interventions by the Commission, including classroom construction, teacher training, and large-scale distribution of learning materials across the country, as well as efforts to return out-of-school children to classrooms. The Oyo State Police Command has ordered the deployment of comprehensive security measures across the state ahead of the forthcoming nationwide examination organized by the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB. In a statement, the Police Public Relations Officer Ayolade Olayinka disclosed that the Commissioner of Police has directed enhanced visibility policing across major roads, communities, and other strategic locations in the state. The command said Ajiko's security has been put in place at all computer-based test centers to ensure a safe, orderly, and hitch-free exercise for candidates, assuring the public of its commitment to the protection of lives and property. According to him, area commanders, divisional police officers, and supervisory officers have also been tasked with taking full responsibility within their jurisdictions to prevent any security breach before, during, and after the examination. And in business, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has moved to introduce a new dispute resolution system for loan-related issues through a mediation panel that will settle disagreement between lenders and borrowers before resorting to the court. This was contained in the circular where the Apex Bank called on stakeholders to review and provide feedback on draft guidelines for setting up what it described as a mediation and dispute resolution panel under the Secure Transactions and Movable Asset Framework. A document signed by the Acting Director of the Development Finance Advisory Department, P.I. Oluipe, explained that the proposed panel would take initial responsibility for handling disputes arising from lending arrangements backed by movable asset. The bank explained that the new guidelines aim to create a clear and uniform process for resolving disputes with a focus on fairness, transparency, and efficiency in handling cases. And finally, in sports, World Athletics has rejected an application by Turkey to switch the allegiance of Nigerian sprinter Favour Ofili, dealing a significant blow to the athlete's proposed nationality change ahead of the 2028 Olympic Games. According to the document, the World Athletics Nationality Review Panel ruled that the application submitted by the Turkey Athletics Federation would not be approved after reviewing the circumstances surrounding the request. The panel said granting the request would undermine key regulatory principles guiding international athletics, noting that the application was part of a wider recruitment drive involving multiple athletes and raised questions and concerns about implications for the integrity of global competitions. And that's about it on Daybreak News. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across the social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and next at Dominion Cast. And that's Daybreak News on Dominion Television. I am Anulu Akbo. Thank you for watching.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB Van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB Van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
I welcome you back. Thank you for staying with us. This is Newspaper Headlines and Analysis. I'm Oluwayemi Adelakun. And this morning we start with Vanguard newspaper, and the banner headline says, rising cost, IMF warns of tough times for Nigerians. With these writers, urges fiscal discipline as fuel transport prices surge. Flags rising debt burden, says debt to GDP seen at 33.1% by 2027. Analysts backs IMF urge federal government to utilize all windfall efficiently. And that was what I think we mentioned this morning while we were discussing, the policies of the president. And then we said that we need to revisit certain policies to make sure that we can beat this inflation because, it's rising as HD on foods, and something urgent, something drastic must be done. And then I think heavy borrowing is also part of why we are seeing this, intense inflation in the country, coupled with whatever it is that is going on in the Middle East, and of course the price of fuel in the market. And away from that, let's check this headline that says gunmen abduct 14 UTME candidates in Benue. Actually, I read another report that said 17 of them were abducted. Don't forget, this is Nigeria. Anytime something like this, happens, we always have, disparity. Some will say 10 persons, 14, 15, but majorly we have two accounts now. Some persons are saying 14, some persons are saying 17, but then it's just sad that something like this is happening. Those persons, those students that we abducted, they just want to do well for themselves. They want to go and write an exam, and then they end up, being abducted. It's really sad, and I remember that some parents, even before now, they make sure they pay heavily so that their kids will write their JAM exam in Ibadan or in their location, in their state. They don't want them to travel. But at the end of the day, looking at the capacity, about millions of persons actually sat for this year's JAM, and then some persons we have to write outside their state, and then it speaks to the issue of security. Same thing that is happening with NYSC. We're also witnessing it with JAM exam. It's really sad. And away from that, let's also check this one that says 10 tricks Tokumbo car dealers use to rip off customers. I think that's another problem. Most persons will complain about buying cars from these people, and then at the end of the day is what you ordered versus what you got. Away from that, let's also check this one that says 2027 Tinubu dares Atiku Obi, Erifai, you can't scare me. Tinubu will do 8 years like Buhari. Ononuga tells Atiku. Don't forget, the president was very bold yesterday when he made some statement. He said, I'm only trying to continue from where Buhari stopped. And then obviously, Buhari did 8 years. And he's trying to say indirectly, I'm also going to do my 8 years. It's left to the opposition parties to decide whether he's going to do his 8 years or not. And looking at whatever it is they are doing now, they are in disarray. Sorry to see, but then I don't see some level of seriousness that is actually needed. What we saw with APC in 2014, 2015, speaking about the coalition of the CPC, ACM, and some smaller parties. I'm not saying that. We are saying subtle jabs. Some of the big shots in the ADC are actually throwing jabs to each other. Codedly in a manner, and they are trying to sell unity to Nigerians. I mean, you don't even need glasses. You don't need, the Tinubu glasses, just like you mentioned yesterday, to see these things. They are quite apparent, basically. And from that, let's cross to another paper this morning. Let's cross to New Telegraph, and we have the banner headlines still talking about the president at 2027. They want to scare me. I won't give up. That's coming from the president. Says, I took over from myself. The late Buhari is me. He's trying to tell us that Buhari is me. I am Buhari. And of course, I was part of those who brought him to power. And then I was part of those who formed the government. So I know a lot about the entire administration. And away from that, we also have this one that says, gunmen abduct UTMA candidate, orders in Benue boss attack. Driver, 2 orders escape as 2.2 million candidates seat for 2026 UTME nationwide. That's why I mentioned that, looking at the population of those who are set to write JAMB this year, 2.2 million. Some persons, we have to travel, unfortunately, and then how do we deal with that kind of situation? I mean, people have to get into the university, maybe except for people who have the intention of traveling outside of the country. But that's why some persons are looking for ways to make sure that their children will write the exam in their state. I think we need to deal with this, because we can't get to a situation where people will be calling for, let's put a stop to this, people writing JAMB, because, I mean, people already called for that, speaking about NYSC, most persons, they will even tell their children, if you apply and they post it to a particular state, just forget about NYSC. Your life is more important than NYSC scheme of 1 year. It's really sad. And away from that, let's also check out this headline that says, security alert, terrorists plan to hit Abuja airport, other critical infrastructure. That's coming from customs. And this is where we are today. Nigeria of today. Don't forget that I said that Nigeria as a country, especially our security, operatives, they are more reactive than proactive. This is not the first time that we get a warning. I remember the Kuje prison attack that happened at the time. Don't forget, Kuje prison, is very close to Asurok. Yet, it was attacked, and then some persons escaped because of that attack. Another, warning is coming now, for Abuja airport. And then if care is not taken, something might happen, and at the end of the day, the security operative might not be able to nip it in the bud. And then it speaks to whether information is even very important, because it's not about having information. It's about what we do with the information that we receive in this country, honestly. And away from that headline, let's cross to another paper this morning from New Telegraph. We cross to Nigerian Tribune. It appears that, the number one citizen of this country, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is making headlines across board, and of course, is on the banner headline again on Nigerian Tribune. 2027 presidency, no one can scare me, Tinubu vows. A turn of the South, presidency replies Atiku. Don't forget, there's this narrative in town to say that, a northern candidate cannot kick out a southern candidate. And of course, that's what some persons are banking on. But don't forget, ADC is trying to say, maybe we might zone to the south or zone to the north or things like that. They've not even done their primaries. But for Labour Party, we are quite sure that they zone to the south. We don't know who is going to be the flag bearer. PDP is in shambles. We are not even sure whether that party will provide a candidate for the next election. And now, so the debate of is a northern candidate cannot kick out a southern candidate, will it still stand? Is something funny going to happen? See, we are about to watch a very interesting movie, a seasonal movie in the next few weeks in this country, because the next few weeks will decide a lot in this country, especially looking at the opposition party. From there, let's cross to another headline this morning that says security forces on high alert for large-scale attack on airport prison. Memo says, I think I mentioned that already, we need to be proactive. We need to be very careful. There was a time in a particular state in this country, they wrote letter to the community leaders that they are coming. And eventually they came, they killed people, they murdered people, in their tents, and then we moved on. And that's why I said yesterday, if care is not taken, people might begin to lose their compassion. They'll just read a particular headline on the pages of the newspaper, 10 persons died, 12 persons died, and then they move on and say, oh, we've seen more than that. We've seen more figures, more numbers than that. It's really very sad. And of course, away from that, let's also check out another headline that says, Oyo Speaker escapes impeachment as Makinde intervenes. Something funny is going on in Oyo State. And then don't forget, it started with the Seyi Makinde wants to make sure that Olubadan will stop being the Olubadan. And then away from that, he debunked that. Even the Olubadan said that's not true. And now we are talking about the speaker now. And the headline is saying, Makinde has intervened in the matter. Are we going to see an impeachment of the Oyo speaker? Don't forget, the wife of the late governor, and that's Florence Ajimobi, is in the mix in a way. There was a time, if you remember, if my brain can serve me correctly, one video was trending online, and then she said, speaking about the Oyo State governorship election, we are going for war. And at some point, it was denied that she didn't say that. It was AI. But then some persons, some journalists who were at the venue said, this video is real. We watched it. We were there ourselves. So that's why I say this all the time. If they explain Nigeria to you and you understand, it simply means you have been here before. You have past questions that can help others, people like us, navigate through this world. And away from that, let's also check another headline that says, please arrest 6 in Ondo for planning 44 ex-terrorists graduate from rehabilitation camp. Seriously, graduation. 744 ex-terrorists graduate from rehabilitation camp. So where are we going to dump that huge number? Where are they going to at the end of the day? Don't forget that most persons have argued that the reason why it appears the military are unable to tackle insecurity the way they should is because of repentant Boko Haram that find their way into the military one way or the other. So these 744 ex-terrorists, where are they going to? Because after graduation, you are supposed to enter into the labor market, right? You imagine when you are done from the university or the polytechnic, people will start telling you favor market. Are we supposed to say favor market to these 744 ex-terrorists too, even as they prepare for the labor market? It's a lot. Away from that, let's also check out this headline that says, no plan to borrow from IMF's $50 billion fund. That's coming from the federal government, but never say never. It's not the first time that the federal government will say we are not doing this. At the end of the day, they come back to say, okay, because of the situation, we want to change. I mean, we can tweak it a little bit because we want to help the people. Who are we to trust and believe in this situation? Okay. Away from that headline, let's also check this one that says 2027 battle. Tinubu fire shot at opposition heavyweight. Yes, the shots were fired and they were so loud because he said, none of these people who belong to this Calabash coalition, that was his word. He said that none of them is without history. And then he said some of them even tried to privatize some particular sector. And then today, those sectors are not functioning well. So he threw quite a number of jabs and then, they were quite loud. Good luck to the APC and, of course, the opposition party. Don't forget, this is even small. Expect more, even as we progress. And away from that, let's also check this one. That says U.S. ambassador post vacant in Nigeria, 116 countries, and that's a report. And then away from that, because of time, let's cross to the Guardian newspaper. And I have a headline that says, our systemic collapse, corruption worsen, inmate plight behind bars. I think it's something we need to speak about, talking about the systemic failure. We really need to work on that. And away from that headline, let's also check this on that says, gunmen abduct Benue UTME candidate amid dispute over technical glitches. Speaking about JAMB, I also read a particular headline, this morning that said there was a scene that occurred because a certain candidate was on a job, and then because of that, one of the ad hoc members or ad hoc staff, maybe he didn't want that person to enter because of the dressing. But then, thank God, thankfully that has been resolved, that you can actually dress like that to the exam hall. Because, there was a time in this country, it was a big problem. Even away from that, I don't know why JAMB and NYC have similar problems. There was a particular time that some core members too, they said they were going to dress in a certain way because of their religion, and then it became a problem. in that camp until somebody decided to intervene. He said, I don't know why they have similar problems, because I mean, we've seen this over time. Look at this now, look at the issue of insecurity, look at the issue of dressing, causing issue. And the major reason, don't forget, why NYC was created was to ensure that people can learn how to live with each other. It was an attempt to stop ethnic rivalry, to see that people can begin to tolerate each other, especially after the Civil War from 1967 to 1970. After that war, it was essential to look for a way to ensure that people can tolerate each other and see the good in themselves. And I think that's another headline. That's one thing we need to look at, because at the end of the day, we should not just create policies. We should look for a way to ensure that we're actually in good terms with other people. And then finally, let's take a look at some other headlines from the Guardian newspaper before we say our BYE this morning. We also have this one that says reps okay, 248.6 billion naira relief, 10-year debt restructuring for Kano, Jos, Ikeja discourse. I think that's a lot, looking at that amount. And then away from that, let's also check this one that says Tinubu backs direct primaries, denies imposition of candidates. That's one thing that people are so bothered about, especially with this new electoral act. People are concerned. Is it that some candidates will be forced upon us, and then there will be no clear primaries? But then looking at the new restructuring around the electoral act, it's not just about the delegates now. Other persons can also vote in the primaries to ensure that they have a candidate. Don't forget, some candidate in the last election who got the ticket, through a very easy way. Let's talk about the likes of Peter Obi. He didn't go through a very rigorous primaries when he got that ticket, and then certain things are bound to change now that we have the new electoral act. I think it's a fine place to leave this discussion this morning. Big thanks to you for being a part of this segment. Don't forget, you are not expected to tune off, because we need to take a short break, and when we come back, we move on to the big story. My name is Oluwayemi Adelakun. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
In a nation like Nigeria, as diverse and complex as Nigeria, the question of who gets what, when, and how has never been far from the center of political discourse. From the principle of federal character enshrined in the Constitution to the unwritten but deeply influential practice of zoning, the pursuit of fairness has often shaped leadership choices and power rotation across regions. But beyond the politics, what has zoning truly achieved? Has it strengthened unity or quietly deepened divisions? This is the big story. On today, we're going to examine a lot of things. And the topic is between fairness and federal character, the real impact of zoning in Nigeria. Samson Balogun is my name, and thank you for joining us. Zoning was conceived as a stabilizing tool, an informal arrangement designed to ensure that no region or group feels perpetually excluded from power. So in theory, it promotes inclusion and national balance. In practice, however, it raises tough questions about merit, competence, and the long-term health of Nigeria's democracy. Some people say putting the right peg in the right hole. As debates intensify ahead of the future elections, 2027 is almost here, and with the political actors increasingly invoking zoning as both a shield and as a weapon, Nigeria left with wonder. Is zoning still serving its original purpose? Or has it become a convenient political bargaining chip? And to help us unpack these issues, we are joined by APC chieftain, Honorable Omolaja Olaoye, a respected voice in governance and public affairs. He will shed light on the real impact of zoning, its promises, its pitfalls, and what it means for the future of Nigeria as a country. Thank you for joining us on today's edition of The Big Story. Honorable Omolaja Olaoye, good to have you here once again.
Samson, thanks for having me here today. I'm very grateful. And we are home, who are watching and listening to us, I say good morning and thanks to you.
Zoning in Nigeria has become more of a shield and sometimes a tool for some political gladiators in the country. It is the turn of the Southwest. It is the turn of the Northwest. It is the turn of the Northeast, or maybe sometimes the Southeast, the South-South, and the North-Central too. They will come and say, look, it is our turn. Now, some people have argued that this has eroded competence. It has left a void where Nigeria sometimes puts the wrong pegs in the right holes. Now, as a political analyst, as an observer of Nigeria's politics from republics from behind to this current dispensation of democracy in Nigeria, would you say zoning is more of a problem than a solution?
I wouldn't say it's more of a problem than a solution. And zoning is not entrenched in our constitution. We have to know that. What is entrenched in our constitution is a principle of federal character. So which that one is well it is well acceptable, and it is really ideal for this kind of egalitarian society we are. I'm talking about Nigeria as a whole. But when you are talking about zoning, yes, that one is very good as well. At least it solves a lot of problems. When you are talking about when a certain region is dominion, can be domineering the political space, it is good the way it conceived by the politicians who are now doing it. I think it can be imbibed, but still it is not something that is acceptable among all the political parties, because we must make it to be a political party like what our electoral bill who says each political party must let the people know where they zone their presidential candidate to, which is very, very, very good if that one can be entrenched in the well entrenched in the constitution, and it's not going to be something that is going to be challenged in court of law.
Now, the reason I asked you that question is because in history, we have had cases of where zoning has caused issues. One, it is zoning within the political party. They call that internal democracy. And again, after that, it is zoning when it comes to the national level. Oh, we want to have the president. Which region is it coming from? We want to have the Senate president. Where is it going to come from? And these are issues that we have had to face in Nigeria. And are there solutions? And let me go through times and situations where Nigeria has had to go through issues of zoning. There was a PDP crisis in 2010/2011 after the death of former President Umar Musa Yar'Adua. And the unwritten PDP zoning arrangement, which rotated power between North and South, was disrupted when his vice president, Goodluck Jonathan, from the South, took over and decided to contest in 2011. This move split the PDP at that time, and the fallout weakened party cohesion and led to defections that reshaped Nigeria's political landscape till this moment. Also, in 2023, before 2023 general election, there was a PDP battle ahead of the election, and one of the most divisive zoning crises in recent history. Many party members insisted the presidency should return to the South after Muhammadu Buhari had 8 years in the North. However, the PDP ticket went to Atiku Abubakar. This triggered the G5 governors' rebellion, led by Nyesom Wike, Okeze Ikpeazu, Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, and Samuel Otom of Benue. They all had their own issues at that time against the PDP, and some of them had to work against the party, which further caused more problems in the PDP. And also, the APC tension prior to the 2023 presidential primaries. Even with the ruling party, APC zoning created friction. There was strong agitation that power must shift to the South after Buhari. Northern aspirants initially showed interest, causing tension in the party. And the eventual emergence of Bola Ahmed Tinubu from the Southwest calmed some nerves, but not without internal resentment, allegations of imposition, quiet compromises within the party, and some other issues. And also, in Odo governorship in 2016, zoning dispute played out in the APC in Ondo too. And some people, it caused fragmentation in the party, legal battles, and defection. That was when the issue, the passing of the then governor, Rotimi Akeredolu-San, who passed away, and then his deputy had to come on board. But then, the emergence of Rotimi Akeredolu led to protests too, even before that, and from other factions. Questions arose over which senatorial district should produce the governor, even before then. Now, if you are going to go on and on and on, a lot of issues like this when it comes to zoning. But this is an unwritten law in Nigeria. It is not enshrined in any of the constitutions that we have to zone to this part of the country. But oftentimes it has created a problem. Another issue I want to point out to you before I ask you this question is because when the PDP ruled for 16 years, okay, they had their fair share of issues. When the APC came on board, they had to go with the flow and say, look, the PDP had the last president from so region. So once the APC is coming on board, they have to have their president coming from another region. And that might likely affect the most popular candidates in that political party. Should Nigeria now sit down and decide which is the best way to go? Yes, you mentioned federal character, which is enshrined in the Nigerian constitution, which works more when you talk about civil service and recruitment. But then, when it comes to elective positions, what would have been the best way to sort out the issue of zoning, federal character, and some other minor issues that you have had to solve in your political party?
I think this problem is going to be continued until, like you said, it is well defined. Because we can see that what happened in 2022, 23 was because that's the problem. When a political party zones their president candidate, it's easy for the other political party to hijack it and put it somewhere else where there is going to be popular candidate. Like of Atiku would have won the election, assuming Peter Obi is with him if he didn't leave PDP and go to any other party, because they are going to use the strength of the North, and for the fact that predominantly ordinary Northerners will believe that, people, they are going to vote for, they are going to vote for their people. So I think that is wrong. I think Bola Ahmed Tinubu won by whisker, and it shouldn't be that like a rotely, that is going to be like a gamble. It shouldn't be like that. Some party will be taking the advantage of the other in order to be able to be hijacking the party system. Mind you, PDP have been using Northerners for a very long time. Apart from Chief Obasanjo that came there just by gambling in order to pacify this Southwest. That is why they put Obasanjo there. Obasanjo was not a politician. And we will not say that one is not even acceptable within the Southwest, because the Southwest never voted for Obasanjo. They voted to AD and ANPP, that is Olufalaye. Now, after that, Goodluck Jonathan just got there again by luck. It wasn't intended. So it was because of the death of Yar'Adua. But PDP have always tried as much as possible, because they believe is another political party and they must be using advantage of it. And it shouldn't be. There must be clear-cut case, and there must be a kind of resolution or a kind of law that is passed if they really want to do it like zoning. But what brought the federal character in the first instance? You can see that First Republic is predominantly the so-called people from the south and southeast. And when you see, it is only Tafawa Balewa and that was because it was a prime minister. The head of the president of Nigeria, whether ceremonial president was Nnamdi Azikiwe. And you are talking about, again, you are going to talk about the Senate president. His name is Dennis something. He came from from up there as well. Who are even a Christian. What about the chief of armed staff? He was a Christian, Agudosi. What about the Nigerian police? He was from that place as well, from the south. So Yoruba doesn't even complain. The Yoruba people doesn't even complain. They didn't complain at all. And the funny part of it is that these people who collide together in the center, even, in a way, disrupted the political system in the southwest. But what about in the Second Republic, when you are talking about Shehu Shagari? Shehu Shagari as a president. We have the Senate president, that is, what's it called? Joseph Boyers. We have the speaker, who is from in order to pacify people from that region, south and southeast. Yoruba are just giving the party chairman, which hasn't got any power. You might say he has power on
within the political party,
within his political
and
party,
not in government.
And not other political party as well. Yoruba were so charged, but we never complained. So it was that 1979 that they introduced the principle of federal character, which is not what entrenched on 1996. Still, because with this, and now you see other regions complaining. When Jonathan was there, all the powerful ministry was being controlled by the south and southeast. It was only the junior minister, despite the fact that federal character has been made to be law
in Nigeria.
Now,
let me ask you this question. Just as you mentioned Goodluck Jonathan, should at any point, should competence ever be sacrificed for what you call regional balance?
It depends on how you are going to be talking about the competence. We have seen a professor that head educational ministry, and you see people who are the elite of the educationalists that are even condemning, like Aborishadi. They were saying he was not competent. They were saying he probably was a second class or this and that. What is first class has to do with governance? It shouldn't be like that. We always base everything on education all the time, and it shouldn't be. You just have to be literate. People that govern us, that even our pre-colonial master, a lot of them were probably do this kind of hard work. They might be carpenter, they might be bricklayer, they might be this, but they are literate. They know how to read and write. Those things, a lot of things must be based on acceptability, and it is not decision making is not fiat. Even when you are talking about corporate world, everybody sit down together and have to formulate a policy, and they have to even sit down and know what is need to be done. All else have to gather together. That is what is being done when you are talking about when you want to sit down for in the all the ministry with the president. They sit down and they juggernaut and formulate whatever that is good for the Nigeria. So when you are talking about the competent, it is very hard to design. I mean, it is very hard to be able to know who is more competent until that person get there. That is when you are going to know whether it's competent or not.
When should we now strike a balance between meritocracy and equitable representation in leadership selection?
Meritocracy. Okay, we are going. Let's talk about.
So are you saying in Nigeria now we don't have a yardstick to measure?
There's no yardstick to measure it.
Or competence.
Let's talk about when you are talking about literacy.
Because I see you have tried to narrow it down to education. But are there other ways we can now measure competence and meritocracy?
What I'm saying is that it is not education. I'm not measuring it. I'm talking about literacy. Where you know how to read and write. That is why in our constitution, you don't need to be a professor or a PhD holder before you can be. Yes, as much as you know how to read and write. That is why it is meaning of school certificate education. Now, let's talk about then when we are having Western region, when we are having Northern region, when we are having Eastern region. I will tell you, to my own knowledge, Awolowo is the least that has this certificate because it did correspondent. Like Nnamdi Azikiwe, like you are talking about Tafawa Balewa or what's it called? Emir of the Northern region leader. They went to the best school in Britain. You are talking about Elton College. Awolowo doesn't have the privilege. But his government is the best then because he was able to, introduce a lot of ideological things that we are seeing as things of heritage right now. It was at least he has to study by himself. He educated himself by himself. We even have the story of when he was having problem of education, he went to Odutola and he was not helped. Awolowo was not helped. But he was still the best man. He wrote a lot of books and every of his work is being imitated right now. People look to be like Awolowo, not like any other person. That is why I'm saying to you, it is not going to be measured by education. Education is the best. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, let's talk about literacy. When you know how to read and write. So a lot of people are not going to be surcharged.
So in practical terms, how can we, can Nigeria politics actually work without zoning?
Nigeria can work without zoning. When you are talking about the competence and general acceptability.
How rowdy would that be?
It might be rowdy. It's not being rowdy because we have a lot of presidential candidates. All people look up to are whether PDP, whether APC. And the kind of problem they are having in PDP has even decimated PDP right now. We are talking about any other party. And for you to know that our so-called politicians, sometimes they don't have any ideology. They are just desperate to be in the power and be eating our cake. You can see what is going on in ADC right now. They must be able to put their house in order. They must be able to plan this very well. There are lawyers among them. There are justices among them. There are a lot of people that are competent that can be able to study the law. And mind you, when we are having this, is it third or fourth republic, when they started with PDP, AD, why do you think they have to have the service of somebody like Bolagi, who wrote the constitution of AD, wrote the constitution of PDP, and so many other parties? Because he was knowledgeable. What our lawyers and our justice are now doing is either those politicians who are so arrogant and full of themselves doesn't want to listen to them. They would not have been this quagmire. ADC. So,
if you check the last elections in Nigeria, would you say zoning has been respected or manipulated?
Zoning does not even occur because people voted according to the way they want to vote. Like I said,
Let me now limit it down to political parties. Let's not talk about Nigeria as a complex case. Let's talk about the APC, the PDP. Would you say in the last few elections in Nigeria, maybe the last 3 or 4 elections in Nigeria since the last republic, have we truly respected zoning, or we have been able to manipulate or bypass the zoning?
We have been bypassing the zoning. We have manipulated the zoning because last time Ashwila Tinubu contested under APC, a lot of people from the North challenged him, and they didn't get the required vote. A lot of people from the South, Southeast does as well, because it was about South and the North.
Is zoning to be respected? Now that we have zoning, is it only to be respected by political parties or even Nigerians?
I think the kind of law that must be made, that it must be respected by all political parties. But why I'm saying it is going to be difficult, because it is going to be negate what is being what our conscience says, because our conscience says anybody is free to contest, or is free to contest or be elected or to participate in the election. Now, it doesn't talk about ethnicity when we are talking about zoning, because it's going to be divided by ethnicity, whether you are Yoruba, whether you are Hausa, whether you are Igbo, and it should not be designed by religion. So I think zoning cannot be entrenched in the Nigerian constitution. All we have to accept is that anybody that is competent, must be able to be elected or elect someone he likes or he desired.
Now, if we now check Nigeria as a country, obviously, some would say, oh, we have maybe 3 regions, or maybe 3 languages, which is Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. But by statistics, Nigeria has over 250 ethnic groups, tribes, if you want to call it that way. Other notable groups including Tiv, Ibibio, Ijo, Nupe, Wari, and many more. And when you talk about languages, as of today, some say we have over 500 languages. Some say maybe 520 or thereabouts. It has not been ascertained. But 3 major languages are being considered, which means that some other regions are being shortchanged when it comes to zoning. And how do you think Nigeria as a country can strike a balance going forward? And what are the key things the government should be looking at to make sure that Nigeria is on the right pedestal going into elections?
I think we just have to be managing it the way it is right now, because it was because of
how
the complexity.
Long will we continue to manage?
No, we just have to be managing it, or to sort what is that it is happening between our domain right now. Because when you are talking about when people want to vote, they don't vote according to the kind of language you speak. That is why you have to see who started this confederation of meeting of regional meeting. It was from the north. Despite the fact that we have Northwest, North Central, Northeast, we have them like that, and still, they, when they want to do a kind of alliance, they will come under the umbrella of Northern Governors Forum, and they wouldn't mind the language. They know they have the diverse language. They know they have the diverse religion. And they are still going to come under one umbrella.
You still have the consultative forum. They also sit and decide what will happen.
No, that is just regional association. Like you are talking about Odua, Afenifere. So that one is not going to last long, because it's all because of selfish interest or biasness. Because a lot of them are looking for what they are going to eat. They are not concerned about Nigeria, about Yoruba or this and that. And when you are talking about the East, you have seen what people are not doing. They are not listening to those elders anymore. So we are now going to talk about, that is why it's been splitted to different regions. Nigeria, we have about 6 regions right now. And with that region, we can be able to, we can be able to define some things. And when a lot of position is going to be splitted within the political party, they always use that region to be able to divide any position they are going to get in the party. I will talk about APC. I don't know about PDP. But all well and good, no matter how many religions we are coming under the umbrella of probably you are Yoruba, probably you are Hausa, probably you are Igbo. And mind you, it is Yoruba that have, some common things among themselves. When you are talking about Hausa, some people are going to say I'm Hausa, some people are going to say I'm Fulani. Still, you can see that it is Fulani that is controlling northern region more. And they don't talk about Fulani, they talk about Hausa, and they have never been feeling offended. But when you are talking about Igbo, some people will tell you I'm not an Igbo man, I'm from Niger Delta. And if you see a Yoruba man that is going to tell you he's not a Yoruba man. Even if he's from Benin, he will tell you, he will probably say I'm a Yoruba. If he's a Gun, he would probably tell you I'm a Yoruba.
So is it safe to say that in Nigeria today, the Southwest has been the unifying factor?
It has been. That is why we don't complain many of the time. And a lot of things is coming to our side. By virtue, it is natural. You can see how Asiwaju spring up. We never knew we are going to have somebody like Asiwaju. We thought all we are going to have last is going to be like somebody like Alewolowo. Because the man is tolerant. So now, I keep telling people, see what happened in a place like United States of America. Who knew the different other ethnic group, other race are about 10%. Others are white. And you can see that Obama emerged as a president. And he won. Nobody thinks that can happen in the next 1,000 years. And talking about United States of UK as well, even if Kevin Badno, whether he become prime minister or not, nobody knew somebody of Nigerian origin who was brought up in Nigeria because of these race bias. Color segregation. Kevin Badno can be able to be on that seat. And she has been challenged, she has been criticized, she has been condemned so many times. And we have never seen in the history of United States of United Kingdom, we see that kind of opposition so steep and so challenging. And she is so good at that seat, on that seat. It depends on whether people are going to vote for him or not. But she is becoming popular every day. Now, that is for you to know that by the time we are talking about zoning, let everybody go to the field. And eventually, somebody better is going to be coming, because whether we like it or not, zoning cannot be included in our Nigerian constitution because the race and ethnicity, religion has make it to be a sort of bias system.
So if you are saddled with that responsibility to restructure or maybe tamper with the Nigerian constitution and make some changes, what would you do about zoning?
Zoning is dead on arrival. It is ideological thing. It cannot be entrenched in the constitution, like I said, because when you are talking about United States, United Nations chapter, who says we have freedom of association, we have freedom of religion, we should not be judged by our color. It has negated that zoning system. Things must come naturally, even if none are going to rule for 1,000 years. Assuming we are getting Nigeria along, it's only the politicians that divide a lot of things. They were the one that divide things.
Don't you think if there is no zoning system, some minority ethnic groups will be sidelined for a very long time?
I know. The agitation in Oyo State
happy
about
with
Ogun.
that?
The agitation in Oyo State about Ogun. If Ogun get it, Ogbonso are going to demand for it, or you are going to demand for it. What about the Barakwa are going to demand for it?
Should we now start with Ibadan?
We have to, all we need to do is that, like I said to some people, we have the best in the Barakwa, we have the best in Okiogun, we have the best in Ogbomoso, but for people to come down, it takes heart of a lion.
Are you against the Okiogun agitation?
I am not against Okiogun agitation. It's the best we can have. But what I'm saying to you is that even in Ibadan, among all the players that are out now, we have the best who are so timid, who are so afraid of coming out.
Barrister Sharafaddin Ali Senator Sharafaddin Ali went to Okiogun and told them that the agitation to present a candidate for the gubernatorial election in Oyo State, that is not there yet or time, and he wants to be truthful with them. And that was met with a lot of resentment by the elders in Okiogun. Do you think that might just affect the chances of the APC going into the election?
it is his own view. Others are going to be asked that question as well. And it was not the one that is on the race. We have Okyogun people on the race as well. We have been having Okyogun coming out.
Some say Sarafadin Ali is your anointed candidate in the
It is no. You see, the problem we are now having is that I am not contesting to be a governor. If others, like we said, like it's been said about whether direct primary or it's going to be consensus, if other people agreed, there is no problem. But you know, in politics, even if others are going to agree, they are going to promise them something. That is the problem. Because they are going to exercise their fundamental human right and they are going to go out there and procure that form and be able to contest or try themselves. You see, the problem we are having is that we still lack that internal democracy.
Even without a clear figure to be your candidate in the APC come 2027, how strong is, in 30 seconds, how strong are your chances, the APC, going to that election?
If we put our house in order, if we allow others to be able to show their interest and to be able to put themselves into the hand of the members of the party, if we can get whomever we want to become our gubernatorial candidate, I think we are going to defy anybody that is coming in PDP or any party that Shemakinde is going. But if some people, if they have to impose people on the political party, I think as a member, I will do my right. What about others? It's going to be difficult because there is a lot of infighting in house right now.
All right, thank you, Honorable Omala Jaolawi, for joining us on the show this month.
Thank you.
It has been a wonderful session with you. Now, as the conversation continues across the country, one thing remains clear. The balance between fairness and competence is delicate. And Nigeria must find a way to uphold both without sacrificing progress. Whether zoning remains a necessary tool for unity or evolves into something more refined will depend on the choices made by leaders and citizens alike. Many thanks to Honorable Omala Jaolawi for his insights on today's big story. Join us as we continue to ask the big questions on this show, and we'll take on another issue shaping our nation's future. I am Samson Balogun. Stay informed, stay engaged, and keep the conversation going. Up next is Trend Watch. So welcome back from that short break. The show is still Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television. And it is time for Trend Watch. And I have with me in the studio Luayemi Adelako and Aluluakwo Idowu.
All right, so let me walk us through what we have trending across the country, Nigeria today. Gunmen abduct JAM candidate, other passengers in Benue, police launch rescue. But I wanted us to look at JAM because it's currently ongoing as we speak. Yesterday, I was coming from my place and I saw, I passed by maybe two centers, CBT centers, and I was surprised as to the crowd I saw. In fact, there were gridlocks across the regions where they were writing those. So you could see police, of course, barricades, and of course, people were everywhere. The students were, and I was just looking at it, and I saw a figure that from 2025 to 2026 that we are now, JAM registration has increased at about 10.5%, meaning over 2.2 million registration or registered JAMbites are going to write this exam. And I was asking the question, are we really ready for this kind of thing? Because if you have to talk about it, because you understand what's driving this is the increase in the number of youth that we have. We understand how this country has a larger population of youth. So, and I want to ask the question if the government is really focusing more on this, because there were many things that happened yesterday. Some of them had issues. And of course, you would not find this, you will not find it lacking in this kind of system. But I'm saying, are we really ready for this? But this is just the conversation across board.
Right. So I think I mentioned it also that, JAMB and then these people, JAMB and NYC, they have similar problems. And then what do I mean by that? Because over time we've discovered that, people who always, get kidnapped. I think it's even more loud now. And then I discovered that deliberately some students will decide to not register early for JAMB. Why? Because they don't want to write the exam in their state. They want to explore. And I'm not saying exploring is not good. It's nice. You might decide to say you want to write your exam in Zamfara, boy, and you're from your state, but then it should not be at the expense of your safety. You must consider your safety before you decide to say you're not good. I wrote my JAMB in Ibadan. I wrote it in Ibadan, very clearly, not even far from my house, because I registered early. So it's another angle that we need to look at. That for your safety, you must ensure that you register early. At the end of the day, not everybody will write the exam in their state. Some will have to leave their state to other places. And that is, what about even the transport? You also need to consider your parents as well. Because if they're going to spend a lot because you are writing your exam in another state, is another thing. But then it still speaks to the issue of insecurity in this country. And another case is policy. I remember, just like you mentioned, there was a time, a few months ago, we read a particular headline that said the federal government, wants to stop giving license to new universities. They want to build the existing ones. We are not looking at what that will lead to, because at the end of the day, 2.2 million persons trying to write JAM, where are they going to? UI, for instance, now they have a quota in a class. In some of the classes,
every school has their...
Yeah, you cannot be more than 40, 45. But then we have some, polytechnics will take, College of Education will also take, but at the end of the day, 2.2 million, where are they going to? Yes, some at the end of the day will leave the country, but then that number is too much. And then if the government is saying they are not going to give out, license to new university, yeah, we might need to actually build up the ones that we have, but then how many are working perfectly? And are we ready to invest in building the existing ones? Don't forget, in some universities now, I don't want to mention names, most of them do not have enough lecturers. You see one lecturer taking about 3 courses, and that lecturer is taking about 3 levels, and you expect him to function well. It's not possible. Even if he's maybe all this, Superman, he cannot do it. At the end of the day, it will not balance. Exactly. It will tell on his health, and then he will not be able to deliver optimally. So at the end of the day, that's why I said this morning, we need to revisit some of our policies. Yes, those policies can look visible, but how intentional are we in ensuring that those policies produce result?
Well, very quickly in 30 seconds before our time is, before they start telling us to leave the studio, I want to talk about this. I think I will speak more to JAMB this morning. And I think that has to do with, you mentioned that some people will have to go to other states to register. I don't think it is necessary. I think that has to be one of the shortcomings of JAMB as a body. I understand there is a time frame to write the exam. Why not extend the time frame so that everyone can be accommodated within their home states and they don't have to travel for too long? We have had these issues of kidnappings and some other things, and we have to stop it. What are the other ways? If you cannot adjust the security system in the country just yet, why not adjust the exam timetable? Make it more flexible. If you are doing 1 week, why not do 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks or maybe 1 month? Split into batches. Let everybody write in their comfort zones so that we can also continue to read this kind of news on the pages of the newspaper. No parent deserves to be in this situation that they are right now. I mean, that is totally appalling. It's unacceptable. And I think someone should do something as soon as possible. Let's take one or two comments before we go very quickly. I think Fahad Aliyu says, may Allah save them from the hands of these bad people. And I think there's a particular one that from Adnan says, Tinubu, well, that's a very big claim, is leading a failed that's, for me, I don't think I want to read that kind of comment.
Must we continue to blame the president for everything?
Irresponsible, it is irresponsible of that person to write this kind of comment, because now we are putting every blame on the president.
I said this all the time.
Someone is in charge of JAM for crying out loud.
Right.
I mean, you have a commissioner of police. You have, the chief of army staff, chief of defense staff. We should start blaming some people for their responsibilities, and everything should not go to the president. I mean, the president is not going to wake up tomorrow morning and get up and go to Sambisa Forest. I mean, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, you can even make your claim. You can make your claim
without insulting anybody, without sounding rude or insulting. That's totally bad. Maybe you should try and learn how to do some of these things better some other time. Be constructive.
Right.
That's a lot better. It's a convenient place to leave the show this morning. We say thank you for being a part of the show so far. Do well to link up with us on all socials, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. Join us again next week, Monday. Same time, same station, same host. Sam Sebalogun is my name. As I always say, security business is everybody's business. If you say something, say something. Bye for now.
All right, my name is Oluwayemi Adelako. Thank you for being a part of the show. Don't forget, your safety comes first before any other thing. Bye for now.
And thank you for watching all through the week. My name is Anula Akwedobu. Bye for now.